Today's video is all about working and travelling in Australia and what you need to get you there. So I did a working holiday in Australia a few months ago, just got back, and it was really cool, had an awesome time. So firstly, you need a visa obviously, so you need to go to the immigration website and apply online. My visa literally took me about 20 minutes to do, and I heard back within 2 days that I was accepted onto the working holiday visa, so it doesn't really take too long. It does say it can take up to 2 months, but everyone I've spoken to who got theirs, it was like a day, maybe 3 days max, so it comes through pretty quickly. The visa costs £285. That could go up, but at the moment it's 285 quid to do it, which is like 500 Australian dollars. You need to be between 18 and 31 to get a working holiday visa, and you need to be from an eligible country, which the UK is. Once your working holiday visa has been approved, you then have a whole year before you have to get into the country. You also need 5,000 Australian dollars in your bank account. They usually do this in a lot of countries for visas that you get because they want to know that you can support yourself while you're in the country, and you can also leave if you need to leave, if you can't get a job or whatever. I have never, in any of the countries that I've worked at, been asked for a bank statement to prove that I have enough money in my bank account. But that's not to say that you will not get checked, so it's always worth having that money in there if you can, because if you get checked and you don't have it, it's not going to be good. You also need to get a bank account for all the money that you're going to make working in Australia. I actually got a bank account before I went into Australia. If you get one with Commonwealth Bank, you can set up an account, you can start putting money into it, and then you get your card sent to a bank, wherever you may want one. I got mine in Melbourne because that's where I was flying into, so that meant that as soon as I got into Australia, I could just walk into the bank, the specific bank that I chose, and go in and just pick up my card and start using it straight away. You're also going to want to unlock your phone before you go, because to use it over there you're going to need to get an Australian SIM card. If it's not unlocked, you're not going to be able to use your phone. You're also probably going to want a CV if you're going to be working out there. You're going to want to tailor your CV to whatever jobs you're going to do out there. So I did a lot of bar work when I was in Australia, so I tailored my CV mainly to that, like bar work, waitressing, those kind of jobs. With your visa, you can work anywhere you like all over Australia. The only thing is that you can only work for one employer for up to 6 months, which makes it really difficult to get a job, because no one wants to employ someone for just 6 months. So you kind of have to take a lot of temp work, or like I did like a catering company where we just signed up for the jobs we could do, and it would be events. So we did like one in a big casino, and we just went around with drinks and canapes and stuff. Bar work and waitressing is obviously quite good. Those kind of jobs where there's a high turnover of staff, they're going to be the ones that are your best bet. You're also going to need travel insurance. I went with Alpha Travel. They were fine. I just went with it because it was the cheapest one. I never had to use it, so I don't actually know whether their plan is very good or whatever, but that's the one I went with. For flights, I got my flights on SKYSCANNER, which is what I use for all my flights, because it's a really good way if you're flexible to just chuck in wherever you want to go, and you can kind of move around the dates and move around the country that you're going to and get the best flight for you. Before I went, I flew into Melbourne. I booked my first night at the airport because I figured I'd be pretty jet lagged. I was actually coming from Canada, but it was a really long flight, so I figured I'd just get somewhere close by for the first night. And then I also booked, I think, 2 nights extra, because we were going on a big road trip down the Great Ocean Road as like the next day after I'd flown in. So I booked the first 2 nights for our Great Ocean Road trip, and then just kind of winged it from there. You're also going to need a tax file number, so you can get all your tax sorted, because you get your tax back at the end of the year, or whenever you leave you can claim all your tax back, so it's definitely worth making sure your tax is right. So getting a job can be quite difficult. My first job I got was in a bar, and I got my job through indeed.com.au, and it was really simple. I just applied, went in for an interview, got the job in like 2 days. It was sweet. Then I moved down to the Gold Coast and could not get a job anywhere, so I did temp work, doing events and all that stuff that I spoke about earlier. I also then went and did some au pairing, where You can live in with the family, you look after the kids, and it was actually really sweet because I got a car to drive, which was awesome. I worked like 4 days a week and probably worked like 4 hours a day or something. And so you get all your accommodation, your food paid for. I got the car, which was sweet, and you don't get paid much at all, you just get a bit of pocket money, but if you work it right you could get a little side job as well to make a bit more money, or if you just want to go and have free accommodation and food, then it's really cool. I got my job au pairing from a website called aupairworld.com, and I basically just put up a profile and got contacted by loads of people who needed someone to au pair, and some of the places looked awesome. I wanted to stay around the Gold Coast, but there was like places, huge places with swimming pools. In fact, my au pair family had a swimming pool in the back garden, which was sick, but some of these were like huge farms by the beach, like looked amazing. So it's a really good way to see a type of part of Australia and not spend any money. At my third job, I actually got from going to a COMMONWEALTH gig and bumping into this guy outside and telling him that I really needed a job, and got a bar job from that. So make sure you talk to people and try and get a job. If you're working in a bar job or serving alcohol, you're going to need to get an RSA. They are pretty much different in every state that you go to. So I ended up leaving Australia with like 3 RSAs and an RSG. Some of them you can do online, some of them you have to go and do in person. If you are working with pokie machines, which is like gambling, like slot machines, fruit machines, you also need to get an RSG in some places, and these can set you back a little bit. I think mine cost me about $300 altogether for the RSA and the RSG. But you're gonna have to get one if you're gonna work with alcohol or gaming. You can also use GUMTREE. Just be really careful because quite a lot of my mates got scammed where they'd go and do work and then never actually got paid for it, and then they couldn't get hold of the people again. So just be really careful what kind of jobs you're going for. Make sure that they seem legit. Yeah, just be careful. When you get a job, you're also going to have to set up a superannuation account. I went with INTRUST because it was an option of 2, and that's the one that I just thought sounded nicer, to be honest. I had no idea, but they were really good. Basically means your employer pays a superannuation fund to you, and then when you leave Australia at the very end, you can claim that money back as well, so it's free money. You are also probably going to want to find a flat to rent while you're there if you're working. To be honest, I stayed with mates my whole way around Australia, so I was really lucky because I had friends in Melbourne and on the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, so I actually just rented rooms off my mates. But if you are looking for a place, flatmates.com.au is really good. I did kind of look into them when I first got to Australia, but it all worked out pretty well for me, so I didn't need to use it. But yeah, Flatmates is a really good way to find a shared accommodation. Once you've been in Australia for a little bit, you might decide that actually you want to stay for a second year. Second year visa takes a little bit of work to get. You have to do farm work for 3 months. I didn't do it in the end. I was going to, but I ran out of time, and then I was moving on to the next place. I was back to America, so it's a good idea to get it out of the way first before you settle down, because you don't have to, like, if you really like the place you're in, then have to leave and go and do farm work. So it is a good idea to do it at the beginning. If not, just bear in mind that if you do want to do a second year, at some point you're going to have to do that 3-month farm work. It's good to be really careful when looking for farm work, because you hear about all these scams where people went and paid out a load of money and then didn't get paid and they couldn't leave and all this stuff. So just be really careful. Most of the jobs are on Gumtree. You can find them. You can also do, like I said about the au pairing earlier, a lot of them will be on farms and stuff, so you can do some work for the au pair family. Sometimes they can do like your farm work while you're there, because you can help out on the farm as well. So that's definitely something to think of. And make sure that when you're doing your farm work, you keep your pay slips, because it is now a condition that you have to have pay slips. If you try and get your second year visa and then they investigate your application and you don't have pay slips, you're not going to get it. So that's basically, really quickly, what you need for a working holiday visa in Australia. I hope it's been useful. If you have any comments, any questions that you want answered that I didn't answer in this video, just put me a comment in the link below. I've got loads of videos from Australia because I absolutely loved it in Oz, so check them out. And yeah, hopefully see you soon. Peace.